And
good evening.
Good evening. Welcome to session number 4, series number 3.
Yeah, that's right.
We've done this a few times. Well, you haven't done it so many times as I have, actually.
No. I'm getting used to it now.
Getting used to it. And hopefully you will gain something from this tonight. And if you are just starting, I suggest that you go to session
number 1
and then number 2 and 3, because there's a lot of useful information, especially in 1 and 2, that you will miss out on if you haven't got it.
And they're just about an hour long each episode.
Yeah, but you can fast forward bits if you really need to. But we encourage you to go through the whole thing. Remember, we're not health professionals. Don't stop taking any medication unless told by
your doctor.
Absolutely, because we are not medical professionals. So, but you should gain a lot of information out of this, and lots of people have. We get some really great testimonies back, and we will be looking at a testimony just after we've gone from this slide. But this is about John 10:10. It comes from the Bible. Healthy lifestyle.
Real life, real faith, real friends with real food.
Yeah, and we're talking about real food, stuff that we believe is the best, not a lot of ingredients.
Stuff that our grandparents and great-grandparents used to eat.
Exactly. Yeah. So welcome, BHC Online. And we're going to have a testimony right now from someone that has done the course.
Brilliant.
I think even putting the weight aside, the improvements in my health have been massive. I was always in pain, and now I realise that actually sugar, when it gets into my bloodstream, and carbohydrate, which turns into sugar, is an inflammatory. So that actually causes me significant pain by what I was eating. And since I've reduced my sugar intake and reduced my carbohydrate intake, the pain levels have gone down to the point where I can actually reduce my pain medication, which is just fantastic because I'm on a lot of it. The other one is energy. I've always been lethargic. I get up and I do stuff and then I just need to sit down and have a rest. But at the moment I'm having days like the Energizer Bunny out of the advert. I am just full of energy from the second I wake up to the second I go to bed, and I have to actually make the time to stop myself and relax. It's been incredible.
It's great to hear these stories from different people, isn't it?
Oh yeah, always.
And we receive emails, and do send us an email or a text. Follow the links below, and you'll see the email address and all the information you need to get a hold of us. And don't forget also, all the videos that we show are available through the links on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, so, what do you click on? Playlist.
It could be.
And then you get the list.
You're better at this stuff than I am.
I don't like to say that.
So it starts with me.
With me, yeah. Everything is permissible for me, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible for me, but I will not be mastered by anything. Food for the stomach and the stomach for food, but God will destroy them both. And that's from the Bible in 1 Corinthians.
Yeah, no, we use the Bible as a reference, but of course you can ignore all the stuff in the Bible if you want to, but there's still some good teaching on our health and well-being.
Definitely.
We recommend you do keep it. And from Proverbs 3, verses 1 to 10, it says, keep my commands in your heart. You carry on, Sal.
For they will prolong your life many years and bring you prosperity. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. Honor the Lord with the first part of your wealth, the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing.
Good promise, isn't it? And of course, we have to do things for ourselves. It's no good just relying on what we tell you, or even what we've been told for the last 40 or 50 years about healthy eating, because all you have to do is look around at the world and you'll see that healthy eating hasn't done the world any good, because many people in the world are sick and overweight and or obese. So it is really worth knowing that we need to do things ourselves. And sometimes we do tend to think we are wise in our own eyes. We've been looking at the Harcum Diet, and we wanted to discuss some of the things of phase 2 rules that really do make a difference. I mean, the one thing we said about last week, and that we've been talking about probably right from the start, is no to processed food.
Yeah, really processed food, anything that's been through a process.
Highly processed.
Highly
I mean, we
processed.
know that cheese has a process.
Yeah.
We know that, to pasteurize milk, it goes through a process. But we're talking about stuff that reshapes, adds a list of ingredients. If it's got a list of ingredients, avoid it.
Yeah, buy stuff with the shortest list of ingredients you can find.
Yes, like milk.
Yeah.
Real milk.
Yeah.
Anyway, what we're going to do now is look at the second rule in the Harcum Diet, which is don't mix
Carbohydrate and fat.
Don't mix
in the same meal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things with processed foods, of course,
is that they are a mixture of carbs and fat.
Yeah. And that's what they do. And they mix them together, and it's actually a disaster for us at that time to eat those together. Now, some rules about how do we recognize fats?
Well, fats have a face.
Yeah.
Animals.
It sounds almost cruel, doesn't it? But fats have faces.
Yeah, cows, chickens, pigs.
Yeah, and they are fish, and they're all and even food that comes from them, like eggs.
Yeah, and
so,
cheese and butter.
Because eggs come from a chicken, and so an egg has a face, and we need to remember that.
Yeah, so that's the thing about fat.
Yeah.
It has a face.
The good fats have a face. Many of the good fats have a face, so we need to understand that. And carbohydrates, well, where are they from?
The ground. Yeah.
Carbohydrates are the ground. In fact, carbohydrates take the source comes from the sun. The sun makes the plants grow.
Yeah, and the food ripen.
And so carbs are from the ground. And so energy comes through that source. It all comes from the sun. If you remember that from college days or school days, the sun causes chlorophyll, isn't it, in the plant, and photosynthesis, and the plants grow, and if we eat too many of them, we get fat. Anyway,
there's some vegetables and salad stuff is very, very low in carbs.
I think we
talked about that last week.
So
vegetables.
So we don't need to worry about very low carb veg.
No, it's the root vegetables that you must steer clear of if you want to lose weight.
Yes, and the root. So again, if it's growing below the ground, it's a root vegetable. Not so good, higher in carbohydrates. And someone was surprised in the Zoom meeting last week that beetroot was a no-no for. Well, you can eat it, but again, it's a high carb.
It's a root.
So it's root and
anything that's got sweet in its title, like sweet corn or sweet potato.
Yeah,
they're not the best to eat either.
No. So there are some clues in the names, and when it comes to oil, because fat has faces, but olive oil doesn't have a face unless you think of olive.
In Popeye.
I don't know why I come on that one. Anyway.
Well, spinach.
Yeah, that's Popeye. Yeah, good stuff. Plenty of strength. So olive oil or coconut oil are good oils.
They're good to cook with, as well as butter, of course.
Butter. Yeah. So when you're cooking your bacon and eggs,
cook it in a bit of butter.
Then the flavor is fantastic. The things not to use when cooking bacon and eggs are oils that are actually not that good for us at all.
No, they're highly processed.
Which is highly processed, which is corn oil.
Rapeseed oil.
Yeah. You don't want to be eating these things.
I was looking yesterday in Tesco because I was going to buy some salad dressing, and they're all made with rapeseed oil.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make my own with olive oil.
Yeah. And that's the challenge. Yeah. It's looking at the ingredient list and finding out what we can eat and what we can't eat. And of course, when we have a vegetable salad with fat, so in other words, we can have a lovely green salad.
Yeah, with a piece of chicken or a piece of salmon. Or
a piece of beef, cold beef or whatever, and you can dress it with olive oil. I know you're not a big fan of olive oil, but you can pour olive oil on. it's really good for you. Stick a couple of eggs in there. Lovely. That's classed as a fat meal.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had to make that a no-fat meal, you would more salad, I suppose.
Yeah, but you need the fat to make you feel full.
Yeah, and that's the challenge,
so
isn't it?
Yeah, if you go too easy on the fat, you will begin to feel hungry.
Yeah. So one of the challenges that we do have is when we're having a salad is we do not want potato salad.
No potato salad.
No.
And no nice piece of bread to go with it either.
A nice piece of bread.
Yeah.
That's what we used to think.
That's what we used to think.
We had to have bread with everything. Nowadays we don't.
Yeah.
And and the other thing is when it comes to cereals, because we're thinking about mixing carbs and fats, if you have to have some cereal, if you have to have some oats, then skimmed milk. The one time that we say, you don't want to mix fat and carbs together, have skim milk or water. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is that between eating a fat and a carb meal, you should leave
3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
And try not to snack.
Yeah, because that just kills the point.
Yeah.
So a typical carb meal would be a jacket potato. With some cottage cheese.
With some low fat. Yeah. And salad.
Yeah. And a fat meal, a typical one could be meat and vegetables.
Egg and bacon.
Yeah, bacon and eggs.
Yeah.
And or your fat meal for breakfast, an omelette. So all these things, but avoid snacks. And if you do these things, you will lose weight. And we can highly recommend the diet. And as you've seen before, the books are available, and you can go online.
And the books will give you a bit of research into the science behind it,
which helps.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's good to get your head around the science.
Now we've got a little bit from Zoe, a video now, which talks about 3 medical conditions that can stop you losing weight. Well worth watching.
Hello, this is Zoe Harcombe. Today we're going to talk about 3 things that you may or may not have heard about, but understanding how they impact your weight is going to be one of the most fantastic pieces of knowledge you ever gain in your quest to be slim. Doctors may think that you're greedy and weak-willed in that you can't stick to a diet. I don't. I've researched obesity and overeating over 20 years, and I've come across 3 medical conditions that are unbelievably common. I would put money on the fact that you have at least one of them, and they cause insatiable food cravings. You are not greedy, you are not weak-willed, you are an addict, and there are physical reasons for your addiction. So the 3 conditions are Candida, food intolerance, and hyperglycemia. Candida is a yeast that lives in all of us. It's just a parasite. It's kind of like our appendix. It's just something in the body that doesn't serve any useful purpose. If it lives there in harmony, doesn't get out of control, we would never even know it's there. The trouble is, Candida feeds on things that increasingly we have been giving it in our modern diet. Candida loves sugar, absolutely adores sugar. It loves bread, it loves yeast, it loves any carbohydrates. Strangely, it loves vinegary and pickled foods. So if you've ever found yourself craving coleslaw, vinaigrette, pickled onions, bread, pizza, beer, confectionery, chocolate, sweets, any of those, I would put money on the fact that you've got an overgrowth of Candida in your body driving you to crave those foods. Typical symptoms of Candida can include dandruff in anybody, athlete's foot in anyone, and thrush particularly in women. It's an incredibly common condition. If you suffer any of those, you've got a Candida overgrowth, and that's making you crave the things that are sabotaging your diet. I can talk you through in any of my books on the HarcumDiet.com all that you need to know about Candida, how you got it, how you get rid of it, what it's making you crave, how it's ruining your diet, and how to overcome Candida in as short a time as possible so that those cravings go away and you lose weight. The second medical condition that is sabotaging your diet is called food intolerance. Food intolerance literally means becoming intolerant to a particular food, and it happens when we eat too much of a particular food and too often. When you think about it, think how few foods you actually eat on a daily basis. You might have cereal for breakfast, that's wheat. With milk, that's a dairy product. You might have a cheese sandwich for lunch, that's wheat and dairy again. You might have pasta for dinner, that's wheat again. We eat so few food groups that our bodies naturally become intolerant to some of them. The real irony is that the foods to which you become intolerant are the foods that you crave. So if you're craving sugar, chocolate, bread, pizza, beer, cereal and so on, it's because you're intolerant to it. We can get rid of those food intolerances. In fact, we can get rid of them in as few as 5 days, which is what phase 1 of the Harcum Diet is all about. We can get away from that food addiction that you're suffering. You can start to lose weight. You can stick to a healthy eating plan. You'll no longer crave bread. It will no longer be making you feel bloated and puffy, and you'll start feeling fantastic. The third condition that causes insatiable food cravings is called hyperglycemia. This is becoming increasingly problematic. The number of people with diabetes across the Western world is increasing dramatically, and hyperglycemia is a malfunction of the pancreas, which is the part of the body that produces a substance called insulin every time you eat a carbohydrate. We weren't designed to eat the level of carbohydrates that we are eating at the moment. 2,000 years ago, man was living on animals, nuts, seeds, berries, vegetables, anything he could find in the natural environment around him. Not Mars bars and Big Macs and milkshakes and packets of crisps and the huge carbohydrate consumption that we have today. If you eat a carbohydrate, your body has to release this product called insulin. Otherwise, you'd be diabetic and you'd be in a serious medical situation. So you eat a carbohydrate, your body produces insulin, and then the idea is that your blood sugar falls back to normal. The trouble is, your body might recognise the carbohydrate in the form of an apple, but it doesn't recognise it in the form of a Big Mac or a Mars bar. So your body just simply releases too much insulin to try and mop up the sugar that's now racing around your bloodstream. So what happens? Your blood sugar actually falls lower than before you ate the carbohydrate. That's when you get the handshakes, it's called that 11 a.m, 4 p.m. feeling. You feel a bit irritable, difficulty concentrating, difficulty making a decision. That is a symptom of hyperglycemia. That is your blood sugar getting too low. At that point, your body tells you to eat. It says, whatever you do now, you've got to eat something because I'm in this hypo situation, hence the name hypoglycemia. Have you ever noticed that when you eat a chocolate bar, you have this amazing sugar rush for about half an hour afterwards, and then about an hour and a half afterwards, you actually want another chocolate bar? You get into this vicious cycle of your blood sugar going up and down. As you get the sugar rush, your body releases the insulin, body sugar goes lower than it was before, you want another chocolate bar. You're actually better off not starting to eat the carbohydrates than you are trying to deal with the consequences of having eaten one. So that is a massive saboteur of diets. When your blood sugar is on the floor, your body is going to do whatever it can to get you to eat. And believe me, your body is going to win. No matter how much you want to be slim, no matter how much willpower you think you've got, your body at that point is going to win out. And that's when you eat the packet of biscuits. So we're going to follow a diet plan that's going to have you feeling great, constant energy throughout the day without those blood sugar highs and lows, again, so that you can stick to a diet, feel great and lose weight. So how great is this as a summary? I'm sitting here telling you, you're not greedy, you're not weak-willed, there's no reason that has to stand as to why you can't stick to a diet. There are 3 medical conditions causing your overeating. One is candida, one is food intolerance, and the third is hyperglycemia. They are so connected. The same things cause each of those 3 conditions. Chances are if you've got one, you've got 2, or perhaps even all 3. We can get rid of those. Working together, we can get rid of those 3 conditions, and then you'll be able to stick to a healthy eating plan and you'll be able to lose weight. You're not greedy, you're not weak-willed. These things are working against them. We can overcome them. Only when we've overcome them are you going to be able to lose weight.
Great. And that gives us a bit of an eye-opener. Yes, we need to take this on board. We need to learn. And what better than having a doctor who has studied it and works on this thing to tell us all about the health conditions. Mm-hmm. So we looked at the food pyramid last week, and we looked at the eat healthy plate.
Eat the badly, or
yeah,
eat
we
well
eat badly.
plate?
And what we have found, if you look at what the food pyramid, and you can look this up online to find it, the food pyramid is basically what you see in front of you there, with bread, cereal, rice, pasta, up to 6 or 11 servings a day, and you could live on this stuff, and many people do. And then as you go up the list, fats, oils, use sparingly, and in that pyramid they do have sugar a little bit on the sparingly. But what happens if we were to actually turn the whole thing upside down, which would be much better? So we have tiny amount of carbs, but we eat fat, we eat full fat milk, we eat full fat cheese, and those sort of things. But watch out on the other things. We would be far better off.
Yeah.
And the results that we've seen in the last few months now has been proven that beyond all reasonable doubt.
Yeah, and this is the plate of food that we are eating.
Yeah, more like this.
More like this.
Which is, a few berries, cream, fat, sausages that are 97% meat. So in other words, because a lot of sausages have a
lot of bread in them,
bread,
grain cereals, don't they?
Now I know sausages are processed, and we're not saying eat loads and loads of them, but if you're going to eat sausages, and we do like sausages, make sure they're high meat content. And look at the difference there: cheese and whole milk and
eggs and
avocados.
They're really good.
Yeah. So and at the top, just a little bit of carb, and berries are the fruit that you want to be eating.
Yeah.
We can chat about designing your plate of food in Zoom afterwards, and we'll also discuss. But how has your week gone? Yeah. You had a good week?
Yeah.
It's been a very fast week
It's a very fast week.
It's been a fast week.
Yeah.
So, and how are you feeling about yourself? Has things changed? Some people are saying that they had a bit of a headache and were feeling a bit lethargic after going through phase 1. Very common. When you stop feeding your body something it's been feeding on for the last dick years, long time, then there is going to be a change.
It's like withdrawal, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah,
it is withdrawal.
Because you'll be addicted to the sugar.
Yeah. And, as that little sign there says, sugar makes you hungry. Carbohydrates make you fat.
And bad oils make you inflamed and sick.
And sometimes we wonder, people say, oh, I'm feeling lethargic. I can't get going. And it's what the fuel that we put in is what drives our body. And if we're putting poor fuel in, folks, we get a poor response out.
It's like you say, isn't it? You don't put diesel in a petrol car.
No. And even a little bit, of, try and start your lawnmower if you put a bit of diesel in it. And you'll find you'll be out there for a long time struggling. So we looked at this picture last week. This was actually a hospital meal. What's wrong with it?
Yeah, far too many carbohydrates.
And what in that meal is processed?
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, everything.
Everything.
Except the potato, maybe.
Well, the potato is probably mashed with fat. So you've got
margarine, maybe.
Yeah. So you've got probably is margarine, and it's so you've got carbohydrate and fat mixed together. The beans are full of sugar. The pasty, of course, you've got the pastry and the pasty is fat and carbohydrate mixed together.
Yes, it's a very poor example of a meal.
Yeah, and ice cream.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to make ice cream, make it with egg yolk and cream. And look up a good recipe. And if you find a good recipe for a low-carb ice cream, let us know.
Let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have an ice cream maker for Christmas, I think.
But only using real food.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge. So look at your meals that you have. Look at the meals you prepare for your children or your grandchildren and say, wow, how can I alter that meal so that it's more healthy? Real life starts with me.
So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everything.
Yeah. God is concerned with how we look after our bodies.
Absolutely.
He gave them to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we should make the most of them.
Yeah. My son, pay attention to what I say. Turn your ear to my words. Do not let them out of your sight and keep them within your heart, for they are life to those who find them and health to one's whole body.
Yeah. Life to one's whole body. That, from the top of our head to the tips of the toes. It's no good standing in a prayer queue asking someone to pray for healing when we keep doing the same wrong thing.
Zoe again.
Zoe is going to talk to us this time on some results she found. This is a part of a talk. You can probably get the whole thing in a link below. And this is a part of a talk where she was giving to someone, and got results from the World Health Organization. And cholesterol, is it really as bad as they've been telling us? And you might find this very interesting.
Yeah, food for thought and lots to get your head around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the final one, if fat doesn't kill you, then cholesterol will. So ask them this, what's the association, let's start with the association, between cholesterol and deaths, CVD, all cause, what do you want, for men and women, not just for 7 countries or for however many countries you want to pick, but for all 192 countries for which there is data available at the World Health Organization. I did this a few years ago on a Saturday afternoon. It doesn't actually take very long. On the link, I've explained how you could do it. This is men and cardiovascular disease deaths, and you can see that it's just a very slight downwards trend line, but basically saying the higher your cholesterol, the lower the death rate. The lower your cholesterol, the higher the death rate. It's only very slight, and for the statisticians, they're not terribly exciting, but it's not doing that, which is what we're told it should do. This is now women and cardiovascular disease deaths. It's getting quite a bit steeper. I've stuck the UK on just for interest. We're pretty low on the death rate and I think we're pretty low on cholesterol actually, but there we go. Then we go to all deaths, and it's getting steeper again. This is men and all-cause mortality. Essentially, you do not want low cholesterol if you want to stay alive for a long period of time, on the evidence of 192 countries in the world. And women and all deaths, whoa, we really, really, really do not want low cholesterol women. This is not a good position to be in. Now, Malcolm Kendrick has shown people those slides, and doctors have said, oh my goodness, it's even worse than we feared. And he said, did you look at which way round they were? And they still can't change the mindset. But we know cholesterol causes heart disease. Sometimes, Malcolm is now working on, when the evidence is overwhelming, what do you do to get people to accept it? Because for him, there's no point working on the evidence anymore. It's that second question we need to work on. So what should we eat? Number one, real food. Such a shame we have to call it real food. I want to reclaim food as what grows around us and what we're supposed to eat. So number one, eat real food. I used to say 3 times a day because of the work of people like Rongon and Jason Fung. I now say 3 times a day maximum. We have got to stop this grazing. I said on a radio show once, unless you are a cow or want to be the size of one, stop grazing. You can't do it. Thank you. And number 3, manage your carbohydrate intake. And I think that will get most people a long way there. When I think you need to do that the other way around is there are certain conditions. We talked about one, type 2 diabetes, epilepsy would be another. There will be occasions when you need to manage carbohydrate intake. So you basically come in from the other end. But you might then start doing some things a little bit unreal in terms of food, putting butter on eggs and all of that kind of thing. But that should get most people most of the way there. The only debate for me then in nutrition is what should that real food be? Should it be plants or should it be animals? Declaration of interest here, I was a vegetarian for 20 years, so I did make mistakes. We're not all perfect. Michael Pollan very famously says, eat food, mostly plants, not too much. I think we need to eat food, mostly animals, quite a lot. And I'll show you why in the next slide. So he's much more on the whole grains, beans, pulses, fruit. We agree on real food. We'll be good friends when it comes to real food. We won't be quite so good friends on what that real food should be. Pasture-fed meat and eggs and dairy from those animals, fish, nuts, fruits in season. We'd agree on vegetables and salads, and we'd agree on real food. So that's good. Why would I say animals and not plants? Because your second question should be, look at the micronutrients, not just the macronutrients. And I've just picked out half a dozen foods. I've picked out what I have so far found to be the healthiest food on the planet. If anyone finds a better one, I'm happy to swap out liver, but it's going to be offal of some kind. I'll give you a clue. Oily fish, sunflower seeds, broccoli, vegetables, your 5 a day kind of stuff, and then whole wheat flour, which is actually flour. I was really generous going for whole wheat because we actually eat flour white. But white flour is the single biggest substance consumed by both Brits and Americans. So I thought it's important to put that one up there. And then what I've done for all the vitamins on this slide, and I've just pulled out in red the winner in that row. So the winner for sunflower seeds on calories is sunflower seeds, and then the winner on protein quality and so many of the vitamins is of course liver. Sardines great for vitamin D, sunflower seeds for E, and so on. But you notice that fruit 5 a day, ho-ho, and whole wheat flour, even whole wheat, are not cleaning up on anything. That's why I think you should be choosing animals over plants. I love this one. Did you know that liver has 4 times the vitamin C of an apple? Not many people know that. And yet we're supposed to have our apple when the liver has so much other good stuff. So we come to minerals, and the plants come from the ground. So you would expect plants to start doing quite well here. They still don't do terribly well. Sunflower seeds really come into their own. And they do pretty well on manganese, which I must admit irritated me a little. So I then changed the table and I said, oh, if I put in cocoa, because I really like dark chocolate, cocoa wipes the floor with everything else. So enjoy your dark chocolate. Cocoa powder on your cappuccino. The evidence is there, girls. This is not a fiction, this chocolate thing we have going on. We need to be eating it. So I'm going to wrap up now. We've covered the 3,500 calorie formula. All food that contains fats contain all 3 fats. Dairy is the only group that has more saturated than unsaturated, not that we care. There was no evidence, RCT or epidemiological, against total or saturated fat at the time, and there is none now. And cholesterol is actually inversely associated with deaths. So your questions. Can you source and prove the calorie formula? I suggest your question on saturated fat, unless you carry around that little chart, should be, what's your beef with dairy products? Because that's all you're having a row about. If you really want to talk saturated fat, the government list of saturated fat is hysterical. Pies, ice cream, confectionery, biscuits, pastries, junk food. You know, there is room for heated agreement with the other side to say, look, just stop calling that nonsense saturated fat. Call it what it is. Can we agree on real food? Then can we sit down and look at the evidence for the micronutrients? And you never know, we might actually end up not having slanging matches on Twitter. Can you produce me that one RCT? No, you can't. And what's the association? Now, I love little Malcolm Kendrick's saying, you know, association does not prove causation, but lack of association disproves causation. If you cannot even show me an association between cholesterol and heart deaths or cholesterol and all deaths, you're really going to struggle to take me to the place that cholesterol is causing heart disease, because the evidence that I'm looking at is saying the opposite. This is the final slide, and I'm bang on 25 minutes. I got this from Barry Groves, bless his soul. I saw Barry speak at a conference. It was actually Barry who ended my 20 years of vegetarianism. And Barry said, you know, what is it? We don't see animals in the jungle queuing up to see the jungle doctor. You know, civilized, so-called civilized man is the only chronically sick animal on the planet. So I'm sort of driving back to Wales thinking, what's my first meat going to be? And it suddenly occurred to me, is this because man is the only species clever enough to make his own food, but stupid enough to eat it? Thank you for listening.
Well, it was certainly an eye-opener for me as I listened to some of these discussions, and it changes lives. And we should understand that we can demolish arguments. Doesn't it say there? We can demolish arguments and every pretension that sets up against the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to make it obedient to Christ. What we have in our mind determines where we're going to go.
Yes. Yeah.
And we need to set that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
it's good to have a goal, isn't it?
If you don't have a goal, if you don't set a target, and we said that in week 1, you need to say, you know, what am I going to feel like?
Yeah, that's right. Don't just say I'm going to lose a stone.
Yeah.
Imagine what it's going to feel like when you get to that stone lost.
Yeah.
You'll be able to walk up a hill without getting out of breath.
Yeah.
sleep better.
Yeah.
Yeah, play with the grandchildren.
Yeah, all these things
Put
that
that
perhaps
pair of jeans on that you've put in the back of the cupboard.
Yeah, and that's great, isn't it? Because someone said in one of the testimonies a couple of weeks ago, I don't weigh myself, but I can get into jeans that I haven't worn for years.
Yeah. So that's important. Don't just say, I'm going to lose a stone. Imagine what it's going to do for your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And believe me, it is transformational.
Mm-hmm.
That's the right word, isn't it?
And write it down, actually. Write down your thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can look back over them over the weeks.
And it's amazing. It's great to receive testimonies, and we'll share one next week. Someone who had started the course early on and said they'd done Weight Watchers and they'd done Slimming World, but they can understand that this course works because 6 months in, they're still at their weight where they started, and they've lost their 1.5 stone, I think it was, and still going on, not losing weight, don't need to.
No, but sticking to
it,
eating.
And not this yo-yo diet, which so many people go on.
Yeah, people, they lose the weight, don't they? Put it all back on again, plus 10%.
Yes, that's the usual thing.
That's statistics.
Yeah. But people on this, because it's not a diet, it's the whole thing is about healthy eating. Mm-hmm. Now, there's some myths around weight loss, and people will tell you this, and this was my thought: exercise more, eat less. But exercise is actually a myth.
Yeah, which is nice to know. You don't have to exercise to lose weight. Exercise is good for you. Yeah, but not for losing weight. Yeah,
and the fact that you need to exercise for 45 minutes for 1 Mars bar. No, what does it say there? One bag of crisps, you'd have to exercise for 45 minutes. 1 Mars bar, we'd have to run for 1.25 hours.
Yeah, just the thought of running for 1.25 hours.
Yeah, puts me off the Mars bar.
Yeah.
Even an apple takes 15 minutes exercise. Now, we're not saying don't exercise, but what we're saying is if you think you're going to lose weight by just exercising,
that doesn't work.
It doesn't work. So let's have a look at another one.
Eat anything.
Have you heard this? Anyone say to you, well, so long as you eat anything in moderation, it's okay. Well, would you say to an alcoholic, just 1 drink? Some of us are addicted.
Yeah, they can't just stop at one piece of chocolate. You've got to have the whole bar.
Yeah. 1 biscuit, the packet goes. And before you know it, you have food cravings that you've been trying to stop, and you're back in the bandwagon. And that's why dieting, when you can eat anything in moderation, doesn't work.
No.
You've got to change it.
You have to find out what foods you're addicted to and then stop eating them.
Yeah.
Just like an alcoholic or a smoker.
Yeah. And that might be a challenge to start with, but once you do it, you can do it.
Yes. Yeah.
The other thing that I come across quite often is people that graze.
Like the cows.
Like the cows. Some people feel it's okay to graze all day, but it's actually not good for us. It doesn't give your body time to rest.
Yeah. And that means that you're going to release insulin all the time if you're grazing on carbohydrates.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and insulin is the fat storing hormone.
Yeah.
So you don't want your bodies to be releasing insulin.
No. The odd biscuit or the odd bit of cake at coffee time is what releases the insulin and keeps your body in that fat storage mode.
Yeah.
So now it looks there. Diabetics are releasing insulin to get their blood sugar levels back to normal because carbohydrates spike it. But that's the same for all of us, not just diabetics.
No. Every
time we eat a load of carbs, we have that a possibility of loading more fat.
Yeah.
So 3 meals a day, that's what we recommend. And, get into that habit.
Cows graze and look at the size of them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Zoe said that in her talk as well. And, you might think cows are just fat. Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look at another one.
Number 2, eat less.
Well, that's interesting because you'd think by eating less, I'm not going to put on any weight, wouldn't you?
Yeah. But you've got to eat the right food and you've got to feel full, haven't you?
At the right time.
Yeah.
So many diets, they tell you to eat less. Count these calories, and you're eating less. But your body, tries to get you to eat more. Says, what's the matter? Are you starving me? So then it makes you feel hungry. your body thinks you've gone on a desert island. How many of us, I mean, I always couldn't have a cup of coffee without a few biscuits at 11 o'clock or a piece of cake, saffron bun.
Yeah, but because we don't eat carbohydrate for breakfast, that doesn't happen anymore.
No,
because the fat that we eat keeps us feeling full for longer.
Yeah, exactly. So we need to make sure that we don't just eat less, but make sure we eat right.
Yeah, we eat better.
Eat better. Eat real food. And that does change our lives. And the number one thing that stops us, it's a myth that will actually tell you you're going to lose weight by counting calories.
No.
It doesn't work. No. Ask anyone that's been counting calories for years, and you'll find that, well, most people, it doesn't work. And if it does work, they still feel hungry all the time, and they're afraid to eat certain foods. So what we say is, the statistic says to lose a pound of fat, you need to reduce your calorie intake by 3,500, or do a lot of exercise, or a combination of both. But actually, it doesn't work. And we know that the first 7 pounds of weight comes off quicker than the last 7 pounds, even if you've cut your calories by the same amount. So it obviously isn't the calorie count. And Fred, who here we've got this guy called Fred. He's eating 5,000 a day, but he only needs 3,000. Instead of cutting 3,500 a week, 500 a day, he's decided to cut 1,000 per day. Which you say, well, he's going to lose weight, but he's going to lose 2 pounds, but he's still eating 500 more than his body needs. So he's not going to lose weight. So cutting calories will not work.
No.
But eating real food does work. And just cutting back on the carbs works. So if you've heard all this stuff, calories, don't forget the calories.
I expect we've all been on a calorie counting. I have 1,000 calories a day. I mean, and you're starving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't look forward to meal times.
No.
Whereas now we look forward to meal times because we're eating real food and we know we're not going to put on weight.
Yep. Not going to be hungry.
Makes all the difference. Let's get rid of that little sign there. So afterwards, if you want to join us for coffee, chat, weigh in again.
Yeah, we love to hear your stories and testimonies.
And it was great last week. People losing weight from 2 pounds, 8 pounds, this and that. Yeah. The transformation and the encouragement from one another is great. Also, like us on Facebook, click all the things you need to click on YouTube, and encourage, send it to other people.
Yeah, share it.
Share it as much as you can. We want to get this message out because we believe that we should all be the healthiest people on the planet. And how that happens is by people taking in knowledge.
Yeah,
so
understanding your body.
Understanding food, the science behind it. Carbs and fats don't mix. So get that one to stay in your memory. And of course, we've all done it. We've all tried and we've all failed. And we rely on willpower instead of God power.
Yeah, and we don't have the right motivation. And we try to do it on our own. But we can't. We do all things through Christ who strengthens us.
As Christians, that's what we believe.
Yeah.
And that's a good way to end this week. So we're going to say we'll see you on Zoom if you can make it. Don't forget, if you're watching on Catch Up.
Only if you're watching.
It's Tuesday nights. If you want the link to see us on Zoom, send me an email to the relevant email address.
You're more than welcome to join us, but we'll send you the link.
Yeah, great. And we will see you next week.
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday night. Looking forward to it already. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's all, folks.